Hey everyone, it's Sharon. All right, we've been talking about trauma related behaviors. We did food issues and we did executive functioning issues. Today we're going to talk about substance abuse. Unfortunately, children in foster care and adopted children do have high risk factors for substance abuse. So it's an important topic to cover. So let me share my screen. All right. So, first of all, what are signs of substance abuse? Obviously, changes in behavior for no apparent reason. So, children who are going through puberty are going to have changes in behavior. Maybe something's happening at school. You're going to see changes in behavior. But if it seems like it's for no reason at all, you cannot figure it out, that may be why. You need to check and see if it's an issue of substance abuse. Changes in peer group. If you notice all of a sudden that the types of friends that they're hanging out with are very different, um, becoming more careless about their self grooming, not taking showers, not cleaning, brushing their hair, not really seeming to care, being very withdrawn and apathetic, decrease in academic performance, skipping classes, loss of interest in preferred activities. Now, some of these look like depression. So it's really easy to mistake substance abuse for depression. But if it seems like it's more than that, especially if you're seeing that change in peer groups, because if they're depressed, they're probably not engaging with anyone. But if they are using substances, they may show those signs of depression, but they'll still be involved with other people. So that might be a way to check and see if it's something like that. Adjustments in eating or sleeping habits. So they're sleeping more, they're sleeping less, they're eating more, they're eating less, anything that seems a little different. And then declining relationships with family and friends. And again, this is very hard to measure because trauma behaviors obviously a lot of times include attachment issues. Every time my dogs bark when I'm on here. So attachment issues does follow trauma. However, again, if it seems like it comes out of the blue, if it's very sudden, those could all be signs of substance use. Risk factors for substance abuse include trauma, obviously, family history of substance abuse. So if their bio parents were users, if somebody in your family are users, it doesn't just have to be based on bio families. So if there's a family members, my husband's aunt is heavy drinker and drug user. And when our child was 3, we made a decision not to engage because we couldn't trust that that aunt was not going to use in front of our kid, and we decided that that was not appropriate. And we told Donnie's dad, and Donnie's dad was fine, but we did decide that that was something we needed to do, was to disengage with that family member. So it may be something like that that you need to do. Limited supervision. The highest risk factor for or risky age for substance abuse is actually middle school, not high school, because middle schoolers tend to be, their brains are younger, they're not as controlled, but they also are given more freedom than they probably are ready for. And there's just not a lot of out of school care for middle schoolers. You can get out of school care up and through elementary school, and then high school they have a lot of after school activities that keep them busy, but that middle school age tend to have a lot of free time. So that actually is a time when they need more attention rather than less. So if you can maybe co-op with some other parents where you take turns watching the middle school kids, getting them involved in activities so that they're not by themselves, not doing anything. That is something that could help with that age group. Um, Feeling rejected for being themselves. So this especially relates to children who are part of the LGBTQ community, but it can also just be children who are in foster care or who are adopted, who feel different than everybody else. Anything where they feel like they're not accepted. And we've talked about this before. One of the main factors in building a relationship with children in foster care or who are adopted is making them understand that they're loved and accepted for who they are. And so it can be hard if you don't agree with their lifestyle or you want things to be different. Sometimes you can't voice that. You just have to let them explore and be who they are without rejecting that. And then, of course, mental health challenges. So, again, our children are high risk because they have a lot of these factors that in their lives already. So, what do we do to help reduce that risk? So, being engaged as a family, being engaged with their bio family if it's appropriate, making sure that there are adults in their lives that are connected to. So if they're having some attachment issues with you, but they're really close to a teacher, encourage that. Let them build that relationship. Um, Encourage if it's appropriate, build that relationship with their bio family. It can be hard sometimes, but it's the best for them, and that's always what you have to keep in mind. The bio family may drive you crazy, but the kid is the center of all of this, and it is best for them to have a healthy relationship with everybody. And so building that relationship is just part of what you need to do. Their own resiliency. You will see this with children in foster care and adopted all the time. You could have two children from the same family who suffered the same trauma, and one will just have more resiliency than the other. And so don't never compare because you just don't know. But know that some of them just have protective factors within themselves that make them a little more resilient. So really build on those factors. And then the ones who have lower resiliency, who tend to doubt themselves, who are a little less confident, all of that, really working on building that self esteem so that they can kind of um, take their own actions to not fall into substance abuse. Adequate supervision, I already kind of touched on that. Finding ways to keep those kids engaged, after school activities, anything that they can do. And that goes into the next one too, feeling connected to their school, community, other group. If you are a religious family, then, getting involved in your religious community. If you've got a very active community or neighborhood, getting involved in those. Volunteering, I say it almost every week. Volunteer, that is a great way to get them outside of themselves and also connected to some other peers and adults that are positive role models. So getting them involved in school activities, encouraging them to do extracurricular activities are always really important. Sports, music, art, whatever you can get them connected to that they enjoy and will keep them engaged so that they're not tempted to use substances. And then going back to peers, and I push this out by itself because this is so important. Peers can be both a risk factor or a protective factor. So know the kids' friends. We always wanted to be the home that people felt safe coming to. All the kids would do sleepovers at our house, and that was fine with us because we felt better about it anyways. That our kid, we were one of the few families that were still. Our My husband and I have been married for almost 25 years, and that's unusual. But a lot of Scouts friends were from divorced families or had some other family issues, and so they felt safe in our home. So be that home that they feel safe coming to. Know the friends, have your kids point them out to you or meet you, just so that you have an idea of who their friends are, and what kind of friends they are. Again, never tell a kid, well, I don't like this friend, because then of course they just want to like them because you don't. But talk about them. How does so and so encourage you? What makes them such a good friend to you? And if they start saying things like, we had one friend that was telling Scout to call her after 10 p.m. when Scout was very, told them, I'm not allowed to be on the phone after 8 p.m., things like that. And luckily we had a good enough relationship that Scout told us this. But things like that. Are they encouraging them to do things that you would not want them to do? And just having an open, honest conversation about, why do you think your friend's encouraging this? What's going to happen to you if you do that? Things like that. So really, really get to know their friends. I also included the substance abuse and mental health helpline, the national helpline. So keep this with you, write this down, know this national helpline, because if you need any kind of information, that's your first stop. They'll tell you who to go to in your community. They'll tell you, what can you do? How can you get them help? That's what this national helpline is for. And so use it, and make sure that you have that number somewhere where you can get it easily.